understand where they're at. But mothers of the Bible, Luke 24, we're going to start in verse 10 and 11 here, and then we'll see some other passages as well. It says, "It was Mary Magdalene and Joanna and Mary the mother of James and other women that were with them, which told these things unto the apostles. And the words seemed to them as idle tales, and they believed them not." Let's pray. Dear Lord, come to you this morning. We recognize we cannot do anything without you. Pray to speak to our hearts through this message. Help us, Lord, to love them, our mothers like we should. And we thank you for our mothers and all that they've done for us, Lord. Thank you for putting them in our lives, the exact ones that we needed. In Jesus' name, amen. I don't know if you know how Mother's Day got its start, but it got started for someone named Anna Jarvis. She loved her mother dearly, so they were having a dedication service for her mother on May the 10th, 1908, see, about this time of year. And she gave a carnation, which was her mother's favorite flower, to each person who attended, which are carnations have been known for a long time with Mother's Day. Within the next few years, the idea of Mother's Day gained popularity, and it was an act of Congress on May the 9th, 1914 that observed Mother's Day in many of the large cities, and it grew from there. And then President Woodrow Wilson proclaimed the second Sunday in May as Mother's Day. And so he established a time what he called a public expression of our love and reverence for the mothers of our country. And so we have Mother's Day. And I do appreciate that they did start that, because it is a day that we do recognize what our moms have done for us. You know, Mother's Day is just it's a special day. It's a day that we want to recognize all those who have done so much for our lives. And so we're going to look at here some mothers in the Bible. And we only have 2 points this morning, which is different than normal. We have several things under those points. But first we see is our responsibility to our mothers. Our responsibility to our mothers. You see what it said here in verse Luke 24, 10 and 11. You see it says that these women told them, and it's about what they're telling was about the resurrection. And they said that their words seemed to them as idle tales, and they did not believe them. And one of those people was Mary, the mother of James. And so we see some mothers here. We should believe our mothers. When our mothers tell us something, we should realize that most of the time they know what they're talking about. Although a lot of times we start to think that we know what we're talking about more so, but really we need to listen to our mothers because they do know what they're talking about. When we're young, we tend to think that we know better. But the more that we get age on us, the more we have experience, we realize our mothers were right in what they said. We should listen to them. We shouldn't just dismiss them. We should listen to what they say, because they do know something more than we get on credit for many times. Sometimes we dismiss what our mothers say. And we need to learn from these people in the Bible. It says, their words seemed to them as idle tales, and they believed them not. Well, as we know, they were right. Jesus had risen from the dead. Jesus rose from the dead to give us all salvation, and these ladies were right, and they should have listened to them. We have a responsibility to listen to our mothers and to believe them. Secondly, the second person that I see here in the Bible, and we're not going to turn there because it's kind of a long story, so I'm not going to read a verse, but many of us know the story of Ruth. There's the book of Ruth and her mother-in-law, Naomi. She helped her mother-in-law. Yes, it was not her actual mother, but it was her mother-in-law. Mother-in-laws get a bad rap many times, and we talk about them and we joke about them, and there's reasons for that. Obvious logical reasons that they're not in our family and they're so close to us, but they're they're not our mom and our dad. They do things differently. Sometimes we make fun of them and stuff like that. But we will have a better marriage if we love our mother-in-laws, if we care for our mother-in-laws. We'll have a better time. And conversely, if the mother and father-in-laws care for their daughter and son-in-laws, will have a better marriage for their son-in-law and daughter-in-laws be good to our mother-in-laws. We should be good to them. We should care for them. We should love them. And we're not always going to see eye to eye. Just as you may not see eye to eye with your husband or your wife, you're not going to always see eye to eye with your mother-in-law. It's just not going to happen. But that does not mean that we should not care for them and that we should not love them. We need to love our mother-in-laws. Ruth cared for Naomi. She loved Naomi. She stayed even after her husband, Ruth's husband, had died. She stayed there with her mother-in-law and she helped her. Even though she did not have to, but she stayed with her and she helped her. You know, we just tend to kind of make fun of our mothers-in-laws a lot of time. It's a popular joke. And I discovered just a few years ago in a different sermon I was preaching, there's actually something called pentherophobia. That's probably the biggest word I'll ever say when I preach. Pentherophobia. It is the fear of your mother-in-law. And did you know that there was such a thing as that? You know, it says, I looked it up online, it says it includes extreme anxiety, dread, and anything associated with panic, such as shortness of breath, rapid breathing, irregular heartbeat, sweating, excessive sweating, nausea, dry mouth, inability to articulate words or sentences, dry mouth and shaking. Any of that stuff, you know, maybe you get around your mother-in-law and if you have some of that stuff, maybe you have pentherophobia. I don't know. But we tend to just kind of make fun of our mother-in-laws. But we need to care and love for them. They are important in our lives. I remember when my grandma died, my mom's mom died, and Wayne's mom as well. He's not here today. But I remember on the way to the funeral, and Dad may not even remember this, but it's just something that always stuck in my mind. I remember him crying on the way to her funeral. You know, because we all loved her. Everybody loved her. It's important to care and love for your mother-in-law. They are important in our lives. After all, they raised up our spouse. They're very important. We should care and love our mother-in-laws. And Ruth exemplified that. And you ought to read if you've never read the book of Ruth, you ought to read it. It's a great book. And then we also see over the next book, if you want to turn to John, one book to the right, John 19, Jesus provided for his mom. There's no better example we could ever have than Jesus in the Bible. And Jesus here, it says at the end of John, that he is on the cross. He is getting ready to die. And he says something here, and we'll see some background on why he says this. With John 19, verse 27, it says, Then saith he to the disciple, Behold thy mother. And from that hour that disciple took her into his own home. We don't quite understand that as much today. But we don't tend to realize how much different our world is today than it was in Bible times. In Bible times, and really until recent history, any woman, in a lot of cases, was not even allowed to work. Or, you know, a lot of cases, they weren't really allowed to provide. So they had to have a husband or a son to provide. That's why it was so important. Ruth provided for Naomi. When her husband died and her sons died, nobody was there to take care of her. And then here, we see here also, Mary here is believed that her husband Joseph has died. That's why you don't see him in the Bible. So she's a widow. And with one of her sons dying, you're going to see it hard for her to take care of herself. And like I said, it's a different time that they lived in. That a lot of times, you know, they just weren't allowed to work and provide. And so it was important that he got somebody to take care of his mom. And he says here to John, Behold thy mother. And it says from that hour that disciple took her into his own home. For whatever reason, she needed a home. We know that Jesus had other brothers and sisters. They were half-brothers and sisters. And why they didn't take them home, I don't know. Jesus must have known that. But he tells John, take care of my mom. We need to provide for our moms. You know, we should take care of our parents, especially when they can't take care of themselves. Now, I can't tell you how to do that. You know, it was a very tough day when I know my family had to put my grandpa in the nursing home, and they felt like they had to do that. So I can't tell you how to do that. But you have to decide for yourself how to take care of your mom and your dad when they get older. It's our responsibility to help them. And Jesus provided an example by taking care of his mom. After all, you know, life is a cycle, isn't it? As a baby, we can't take care of ourselves. And many times we'll get to a point in our age and our lives that we can't take care of ourselves. Well, as our moms took care of us as we were babies, I think we should do the best we can to take care of them when they get to that age that they can't help themselves. Jesus provided for his mom. We need to do everything that we can to provide for our moms. And our second main point is a mother's responsibility. If you want to turn to the Old Testament, to 1 Samuel, we're going to see a great example of a mother in Hannah. And by the way, while we're turning there, there's so many mothers in the Bible that we're not going to even mention this morning. Of course, Eve, the mother of all living, we're not going to mention her. We're not going to mention Rebecca or Sarah, which we see a lot of in the Old Testament. But we see several moms here, and we see Hannah. 1 Samuel chapter 1 verse 10 says, "And she was in bitterness of soul, and prayed unto the Lord, and wept sore." Hannah was a praying mom. Hannah was a mom at this point before she had Samuel. She could not have children, and she had not had a child. And she prayed to the Lord, and she was weeping over this barrenness that she did not have a child, and so she prays. The most important thing a mom can do for her kids is pray. The most important thing a grandma can do for her grandkids is pray. We need to pray. We need to pray at a young age for their salvation, first and foremost. We need to pray for they get saved. That's the most important thing that they could do, is they could get saved. And then we need to pray for them to grow closer to the Lord. A mom should be a praying mom. There is nothing that beats a praying mother. And secondly, we see that she raised him. 1 Samuel 1:22, it says, "But Hannah went up, for she said unto her husband, I will not go up until the child be weaned, and then I will bring him, that he may appear before the Lord, and there abide forever." And so she ends up having a child, Samuel. Now this is a child that she had wanted for so long, and that she's going to have to give him back to the Lord. But you see what she said here first? She said, "I will not go up until the child be weaned." And so she raised him for a little while there until she had weaned him. A mother's most important responsibility is raising their kids. And there's many responsibilities a mother has, but the most important is raising their kids. We shouldn't trade this responsibility for something else. Like I said, I can't tell you how to do that, just like I said about taking care of your parents. But its most important responsibility is training up their kids. So the Bible says, train up a child in the way he should go in Proverbs. Train up a child in the way that he should go. A mother should train up their children, should raise their children, should show them how to live. And then we see she gives them back to the Lord in verse 28. "Therefore also I have lent him to the Lord. As long as he liveth, he shall be lent to the Lord," and he worshiped the Lord there. A mother should lead their kids spiritually. So she should pray for them, she should raise them, but she should also lead them spiritually. lead them spiritually. Susanna Wesley was the great mother of John Wesley, the great preacher, and also Charles Wesley, who wrote many of the songs in our songbook. She spent time spiritually each day with each of her 10 living children. She would spend a certain amount of time with each of them each day. She actually ended up having 19 children, but many of them died at childbirth. So she had 10 living children at home that she spent time with each day, reading the Bible, teaching them how to love the Lord. She gave them back to the Lord. She trained them up spiritually, and we see Hannah give her child, Samuel, back to the Lord. I'll say this, a mom, a grandma, should be willing for her kids and her grandchildren to be sent as missionaries anywhere. You see what Hannah did here? She gave Samuel back to the Lord. You may say, well, he wasn't as far away as my child in Africa. Well, considering they didn't have airplanes and stuff, he was just as far away as someone who may go overseas to Africa or Asia or wherever and be a missionary. We should give our children back to the Lord. And then we see she provided for her son. In chapter 2, verse 19, it says, "Moreover, his mother made him a little coat and brought it to him from year to year when she came up with her husband to offer the yearly sacrifice." A mother makes sure her children have what they need. And we know our examples of our moms, how they have done that, how they have given stuff up for their children. You know, my parents went through a lot when I was a kid to provide me as a Christian education, both in elementary school to high school, all the way up to college. You know, a Christian education. They didn't have to do that, but they gave me a Christian education and gave up a lot for that, and I appreciate that. It's a lot of what I am today. A mom makes sure their children have what they need, and they know what they need. They know what food they need. They know what drink they need, and they know exactly what they need. And a mom's better than that than dads many times. You know, I've begun to learn, but especially when my daughter Madeline was first starting to talk, you know, what she was asking for. And Carrie picked on it a lot faster when she said juice. And eventually she started to say milk. And now she starts to say drink. You know, she picks on it up a lot faster. A mom just tends to know what the children need. And mothers are great at that. A mom provides for her son. One of the most famous chapters to talk about on Mother's Day is Proverbs 31. Talking about a virtuous woman. One verse there, verse 15 says, "She riseth also while it is yet night, and giveth meat to her household, and a portion to her maidens." So she rises up while it's night to give meat to her household, so food to her household, and even it talks about her maidens there, she gives to them. So she gives what people need, especially her children. We have so many moms that have given up so much for us, and we should thank them. And we should do it daily, but we forget many times that we should at least do it on Mother's Day. Thank them for what they've done for us. And then we go to the next one, and this is one that we've actually talked about recently if you've been here on Sunday night, but Jochebed, Moses' mother. Hebrews 11:23 says, "By faith Moses, when he was born, was hid 3 months of his parents, because they saw he was a proper child, and they were not afraid of the king's commandment." So Jochebed, Moses' mother. Moses is one of the most well-known people in the Bible. His mom is not as well known. She's somewhat known, but she did the world and Moses a great favor. She saved his life. A mother will do anything to help their kids. She risked her life to save the life of Moses. She did so much to save him. She put him in that ark of bulrushes. She put him on that river, and so that he would not have to kill. Because Pharaoh had said that all boys that are born should be killed, and so she risked her life for Moses. They'll do anything to help their kids. Sadly, though, today, moms are taught that it's okay to abort their kids. And I know that that's a tough subject today, but it doesn't just hurt that kid, though. I believe it hurts the mom. Many moms, I'm sure, dread Mother's Day because they've aborted the child. And many times they realize it later on. And I don't know anybody here. There's somebody here today may have had abortion or something. That's in the past. There's nothing you can do about it now. But I'm just telling you that as a country, we need to fix the future. Slavery also used to be a popular thing, and many people thought it was right to have slavery. They thought we were supposed to have slaves. A great Christian, though, Wilberforce, was very instrumental in ending slavery, especially in Britain, but that spread over here as well. As Christians, we should be influential in ending abortion. Those kids can't do anything for themselves. There's nothing that they can do to save themselves, and it's something that we need to fix. Like I say, somebody could have had an abortion. That's in the past, but I'm talking about the future. We need to fix abortion. And there are many moms today, it's not just the kids, there are moms today that hate that they did that. A mom cares for her children. And then we see an example of Lois and Eunice. 2 Timothy 1. Just go ahead and turn there. 2 Timothy chapter 1. 2 Timothy is written to Timothy. And we see his mother and his grandmother mentioned here. Lois and Eunice. Paul here is writing this letter to them, and he's seen them. And he says, when I call to remembrance the unfeigned faith that is in thee, which dwelt first in thy grandmother Lois and thy mother Eunice, and I am persuaded that in thee also. So he says, I've seen this faith in thee. First I saw it in your grandmother, then I saw it in your mother, and now I see it in you. Lois and Eunice were a good example. They were a great example to Timothy. Mothers should have faith, and they should show their children faith. They should be a godly example. They should have faith. And grandmothers should have faith. I guarantee you, if I were to ask, many of you probably had a great praying grandmother. Probably changed your life. Her prayers probably shaped you. And you may not even know it. And you may not even know exactly what she prayed for, but her prayers probably shaped your life. Lois and Eunice, a mother and a grandmother who were great influences. Our moms are great influences on us, and if you're a mom, should desire to be even a greater influence, and a grandmother to be a greater influence. Lois and Eunice, not extremely well known, but there's a verse in the Bible about them that says that they had faith and they passed it on to Timothy. There is no greater thing, like I said, but Father's Day is coming up as well. Mother's Day, Father's Day, there's no greater thing for a mother and a father to pass on their faith to their children. And then it's even greater when that gets passed on to their grandchildren and their great-grandchildren, their great-great-grandchildren, and they have a history in their family of a spiritual life. Moms, they do so much for us. Grandmothers, they've done so much for us. We need to honor them on Mother's Day this day. In conclusion, someone said this. A cartoon showed a psychologist talking to his patient. He said, let's see, you spend 50% of your energy on your job, 50% on your husband, and 50% on your children. I think I see your problem. You know, that's true of moms. They give so much, 50% here, 50% here, 50% there, and they give so much, more than anybody seems like they could give. There's nothing like a mom. They don't just give what they can give. They go above and beyond. Mothers are special. And that's why we want to honor mothers today. Thank you, every single mom, what you've done. There is nothing more important in our lives than passing on our spiritual heritage to our children, our grandchildren. Moms, thank you for everything that you've done. I'm going to ask every head bowed and every eye closed as Mom's going to come up to the piano and play for us. And just a very quick invitation this morning. Had a sermon about moms this morning. And we just appreciate all that they've done for us. We're going